wouldn't be in business or for profit if we didn't do that. But that doesn't engage employees. Employees are motivated and driven by a common and higher sense of purpose. We check that in our shop by doing the ubiquitous employee engagement surveys in the last couple of years, but we followed up with focus groups, and we got exactly the consistent results that I saw in research around the world, that people said, I want to understand more how my role actually provides benefit for patients, and I want to understand how I'm helping patients a lot more than I do now. That will engage me more than anything else. So how can we better align our intentions with our efforts? Here's a few what-if ideas. I don't think they're rocket science, but there's some things that we're exploring in my company, so I just wanted to share them today. There are 4 of them. Number 1, we save lives. I think that's a Pfizer slogan, which I like. I'm not talking so much about external communication. I'll come back to that. I'm talking about within our companies. We need to talk it up a lot more than we do now. We should do a much better job, I think, of arming our people so that they're prepared for what I called here the guerrilla attack at the neighborhood pool party. Right? You know, it's all happened to every one of us here. You're at your kid's birthday party, and all of a sudden somebody, oh, you work for pharma, and next thing you know, you're pinned against the wall, and they're, you know, just attacking you with all this negative information about the pharmaceutical industry. And you know, I have to say, even probably 10 years in the industry ago, I would have had an emotional reaction to that, but I might not have had really good stats and figures at my fingertips so I could nail them and say, not true. You know, we reduce hospitalization. For every dollar spent on pharmaceuticals, there's $6 in return on investment, and so on and so forth. And so we have a lot of these tools. I brought a few of them for show and tell today. I mean, industry associations like RX&D have produced a lot of materials that we can go in. There's lots of pharma bulletins and things like that that give us the facts and figures. And I'm as guilty as anybody else. I had what we call an in-sync employee meeting about a year and a half ago, and we went through all this. We workshopped it with our employees. We asked them to break out, come back with what the most compelling messages were. They role-played the guerrilla attack at the pool party. But that was it. That's the last time I did it. It was probably a year and a half ago. How many times have we role-played the latest paper or VisAid with the sales rep in the last year and a half? We do it all the time. We do it every 3 months if we don't do it more. We need to be better prepared as employees, not just senior executives, but everybody in our firms, because we represent, you know, 25,000 people in Canada, and we know 100 people each, and you can do the math very quickly. It becomes a viral campaign, like a tipping point, that book, to put things on. So we have to make sure that people have stats, but I think we also have to do a much better job of having communication programs within our companies so that people feel, you know, that they got the rust off and they're ready to go, and then they can respond to that. So, as I said, the industry associations are doing a great job with that. Beyond just providing these sorts of tools, they're doing things like RX&D has a campaign called Knowledge is the Best Medicine, which a lot of you know. There's my plug. And also the Hearts and Minds campaign, which hits television as well. So I think that our industry associations are doing a nice job at the aggregate public level of doing it. But we need to do a good job at the individual level with our neighbor at the pool party. So what if idea number 2, I think we got to get out from behind the glass. Very simply, what I mean by that is that we have to, in my opinion, get out from behind the glass of market research and get in and talk to patients. We did a lovely project last year with a company who might even be here, Research Dimensions, where for the first time actually a research company, we had a discussion with them, and they invited us to come out from behind the glass and get in and introduce ourselves and engage ourselves in the conversation with the patient focus groups that we were doing. It was an enlightening experience. It was a great experience. And I know I'm the bane of all market research's existence, because I believe that we need to do more. We should run focus groups ourselves. They'll tell me there's contamination and bias in the data, and I would tell them that 75% of the learning is in the process as opposed to the binder that we put on the shelf at the end of it. So I think we've got to get our employees more engaged in getting out from behind the glass, going out, doing primary research, being involved in it. We want to run more patient ad boards in our company. You know, for every physician ad board you do in your company, I think you should do a patient ad board, especially if you're in the specialty area. How many physician ad boards have you done in the last year, and how many patient advisory boards have you done? I would think that ratio would be very, very low. And finally, an orientation program, something that we're starting at EMD Serono, is when you think about it, the first day you walk into a company, you know, and I started 23 years ago, the first thing I did when I came into an orientation program was I got giant binders on the brand and the disease states and physiology and company orientation, how to use the email, or I don't know if we had email then, phones, whatever, the phone manual, all that stuff. I didn't see anything about a patient. Now, mind you, I came in as a techie. I was a data analyst. But I didn't see anything about patient orientation for the first 3 years I worked for pharmaceuticals. Now, times have changed a lot, but I wonder if I was in your training room and it was an orientation program for a new employee, what would be the percentage focus on introducing your new employees to patients and their issues live, as opposed to just, having your marketing director talk about it. So we're bringing patients into our orientation programs. We're asking our new employees to sit in the call center and actually listen into calls so they can understand the patient experience, because we have a patient service program, so that we're trying to build it in from day one. So we tell people when they come in, patients are a huge focus with us, and it's more than a value pasted on the wall. What if idea number 3? A lot of people have patient ambassadors, but I think that a lot of us approach it in a rather inconsistent way. We talk a lot about key opinion leader development and key opinion leader advocacy, and most of us have that down to a science. It's like you've got maps and programs and plans and what if and when. But I think my experience in the U.S. would suggest to me that you should approach in the same relentless way patient ambassadors. Not because they should be out there doing marketing all the time. We can't even do that by regulation. But even so they can help you with some of the things you need to do within your company. So that when you need to call on somebody to be at your orientation program, or somebody to take a media call who's a patient, or whatever it is, you're systematically talking to people and expanding your circle of people who are delighted to talk about your drug, even if it's just to your employees, and share the benefits or some of the negative situations they've had as well. And finally, I wouldn't be me if I didn't say at the end that this is going external now. I really believe, and it's a personal opinion, that we should challenge the DTP and DTC norms in this country. I know I'm probably in the minority on that view, but I really rail against it. I think about your health and your wealth. Wealth is not more important than your health. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. But financial security is a preoccupation for Canadians, and your financial assets are a big issue. So although banks are regulated and they have to be accurate in what they communicate, or a stock market, well, that's a bad example right now, but anyway, a mutual fund company, something like that, also probably a bad example right now. They're supposed to be regulated in what they say and fair balance, but they're not refrain from being able to talk to you directly. And I honestly believe that this sort of gatekeeper approach that we've had in the past is going to be a dinosaur in 20 years from now when I'm out of the industry. I think we really need to think long and hard rather than just accepting them as norms, legacy norms, and think about, especially under DTP, even under DTP, I had a conversation with one of our business unit heads yesterday. Right now we can only talk about Section 3 for the product monograph. Why can't we talk about Section 1 and Section 2? That's where a lot of our efficacy and clinical trial data are. That's important information for patients. Why should they be protected from that? If you talk to a patient who's suffering for disease, they don't want to be protected from anything. They want information, but they want it to be accurate, of course. So I think we should do more to challenge it rather than being scared of the boogeyman, which is down in the U.S. Everybody's scared of all the big DTC and the barrage of what happened down there. I'm not necessarily advocating we go in that direction, but I am advocating that we have more ability to go directly to the people who are affected most and who commit the most strong ultimate act of faith when they take a syringe, in my case, and inject it into their veins. That is a great leap of faith, and I'm not necessarily comfortable that I can only communicate with them indirectly. So I think a Project Thrive in our company is called Connecting the Dots. We call it Connecting the Dots for short. Just to summarize those 4 things that I think we could do within our companies, at least 3 of them are within our companies. We can talk it up more, what value we bring to patients in Canada. We should get out from behind the glass more and not trust all this secondary research that we tend to get. And I think we should nurture more patient ambassadors and more intimacy within our companies, whether it be orientation or patient advisory boards. And finally, I think it would behoove us to challenge the DTC and DTP norms that we have in this country now so that we can more effectively communicate amongst ourselves. Thank you.